and then I think we'll get started. So I'll be boring for a couple minutes and share my screen. But for a lot of this, we're just going to have good conversation. So, all right. So welcome everyone. And Matthew, if you could watch the room and let people come in if they join a little bit late, that'd be great. I'm so excited for today. I had my pump up music on before. We're ready to go. So today, the event itself is brought to you by a storytelling pilot that Us Memory Keeper is hosting. So we're facilitating a storytelling pilot in the province and really excited to be doing that. So many incredible stories. The pilot itself is being sponsored by Innovation Saskatchewan. So they're subsidizing the pilot as well as they are really excited to get to start telling some of the great stories that we cultivate together in this cohort and community. Also brought to you by SUMA, Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association. Great partners and really great at helping us reach the communities in this province whose stories we want to help tell. So the goal of the pilot really is to help you as an organization or a community honor heritage, connect your community, and drive your economy through storytelling. Easy peasy. No. So today we are very lucky to get to have Andrew with us. We're gonna pick Andrew's brain on how to find hidden gems, how to choose which stories to tell, how to gather content and, create some variety within that content, as well as, because unfortunately Andrew's only one person and he's feeling pretty stretched probably as it is, how we do it ourselves so that if Andrew can't be the one to help us, that we have the tools, the skills to be able to have the impact that he's having with his stories. And then we're going to have some dialogue about like what makes a great story. So we're also going to tell you a little bit about how Memory Keeper can help and the pilot itself. And then we're just going to open up the tables. We hope to have some time left so we can just have some Q&A, have some good dialogue, and start to feel like a community ourselves here. So Memory Keeper, to tell you a little bit, we are a digital storytelling platform. We're Saskatchewan based. We help people with storytelling and content management. For those of you who are in tourism, if you know CrowdRiff, we're like a simpler but also way more affordable version of CrowdRiff. So we help you tell stories, gather content. We interact really nicely with social media, but I will say we think we're better than social media for some things. We can help you just have you and your audience tell a story. So there's no algorithms, there's no ads, there's no other people trying to get their attention. And we do it differently. So we focus on privacy. We comply with Indigenous data sovereignty. We're not collecting data and commoditizing it. So that is who we are. And our mission is simple. It's to connect the world through stories. And so I think we're making great strides with this pilot here today. And now to introduce the man with what I would probably think is the best job description in Saskatchewan. I mean, I know it's longer than just this, but uncovering all the corners of the province, celebrating people, businesses, experience, and events that make Saskatchewan so special. That's a pretty great job description. Andrew, we know you're about to hit a really busy season. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank all of you for tuning in. This will be a great conversation to have.
Yeah, it'll be a fun dialogue. And you have a busy summer ahead of you.
Yeah, calendar's filling up quickly as it always does. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're dialing in from Regina today. So you actually get to sleep in your own bed for one night.
Yes, I got home last night. I got 3 days here. I just got back from about an 8-day and a road trip covering a bunch of the different Western development museums and a few different things in between. So I'm back home right now in my home office here where I hide out and do all my editing when I get home, and then yeah, back on the road on Friday here for the long weekend. So
this
good
is
to be
the
home
thing
for a minute.
Yeah, we forget about Andrew as he's out and he's creating all this content all the time and it's incredible. But then he has to go home and actually edit it and do all the behind the scenes work too. So yes, I imagine
Absolutely.
the schedules are pretty good. So Andrew, what I'd hoped to do today was I was going to go through a couple examples. We'll see the examples and then we'll kind of pick it apart before we have the dialogue about how you pick, just to kind of warm everyone up. And I guess, and I didn't mean to, but I think Perhaps I was hungry when I made the slide deck because the first two examples, I'm like, this will make you hungry. If you did not have breakfast, I am very sorry. So let's take a look at this first one, then we'll talk about it.
This building has been home to a bakery for over 100 years. It's on the cover of Naomi Hansen's Only in Saskatchewan cookbook. I've been wanting to try this place forever. They're famous for their Bismarcks and many other things. Let's go inside and meet the owners of the Golden Grain Bakery in Melfort, Saskatchewan. Hi, I'm Don Nair. I am one of the owners of the Golden Grain Bakery in Melfort, Saskatchewan. We have owned the bakery since 2006. We are quite renowned for Bismarck's. It's an iced donut with a jam filling on the inside. It's a local Melfort thing. Our bakery is unique in the fashion that we're one of the few bakeries that still bake from scratch. We get up early in the morning. We add the flour, sugar, salt, shortening. We do it with old recipes that have been handed down for many years. That makes for a nice fresh product, almost as close as what you're going to get from your grandma. Here it is, my friends, the Saskatchewan famous Bismarck from the Golden Grain Bakery in Melfort. So many of you have told me to give this thing a try. Okay, I get the hype. I get the hype. It's like a big, delicious dessert pierogi. I'd drive to Melfort for that. Do not say this lightly. This Bismarck is right there with the Wadena Boston cream donut. That is a treat.
See, hungry, right? So I just want to highlight a couple things before I turn over to you, Andrew. But first, I love that even though you focused on the one place and the one product, you still managed to slip another local, kind of special space in Saskatchewan into the end of your story. So I noticed that with all your stories that you managed to really lift up a couple people at a time. I'm curious just if we can start with how you heard about it. What made you choose that? And then did you hear anything back from the business owner? How'd it go after you did the highlight on those delicious looking Bismarcks?
Yes, absolutely. And I get to do a lot of really cool stories and really cool experiences around Saskatchewan. And those are, for obvious reasons, some of my favorite to profile is those hidden gem bakeries, because obviously you get to experience things like that. But that place is really special. It's been around for years and years. The building is like an absolute flagship in the community. So I had heard about it through a number of different avenues, mostly people on social media messaging. I showed at the start of the video there that Naomi Hansen's book, Only in Saskatchewan, covered it. So I was reading that, and that was a good inspiration. And the way that story was a good example of something that I did not have planned at all. And due to a trip that I can't remember what exactly the trip was supposed to be, but it was just kind of on my list, like all these little sticky notes, and a trip got canceled. A shoot couldn't happen, and I had a day with nothing to film. And I looked at my wall and pulled that one because it had been on there for a long time.
Yeah.
Drove up and kind of shot that on a whim. So that was kind of a cool example of something that was not really planned or prepared for, other than hearing about it a lot. So it was kind of near the top of my priority list, but super cool story. Another example of a long form video. Sometimes if I'm on the road and I'm just driving through and I only have 30 minutes at a location, I'll just shoot something on my cell phone. I won't interview the business owner. I'll do something kind of quick and easy, and I'll add a voiceover or something to it. But because from a capacity standpoint, I had the day, I was able to shoot. I had some editing time. It was in the fall, so it was a slower time of the year. So I was able to film that piece. It ended up performing really well. It was one of those examples that get me really excited about what I do, because the days after that video went live, I got a photo. The day after, I got a photo from the owner of his empty bakery shelves, and there's only about 2 or 3 pieces of baking left. And he said, wow, we had people lined up today. There was people came from Swift Current to Melfort, which is
Like
not a small drive. I believe
4
it's
hours?
4+ hours
Yeah.
or yeah. So that was a really cool example of someone who I immediately heard back from and said this had a genuine impact on her business, which always is adds fuel to the fire, which is really, really cool to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, now we're going to go to the second example, which is also potentially going to make you hungry. And I just have to apologize to Andrew because I'm sure you love just watching videos of yourself eat food here. And I make all of us because we all like it.
No, it's all good.
Okay, good.
Votes are in. The best rink burger in Saskatchewan, according to your comments and likes, is in this rink right behind me. Welcome to Glentworth. Let's go try this thing out.
That looks like an amazing burger. And I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah. It was
local beef, fresh baked,
very tasty.
super seasoned grill. The beef side, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's a great rink burger. I would drive here for this from Regina. Come take in a junior novice practice and eat yourself a double burger. Kind of wish I would have brought my skates. There's like 20 people in here right now watching practice, and I'm pretty sure 15 of them have one of these burgers in their hands right now. That was tremendous.
No offense, but if you
Whatever.
still think stock,
Getting another ad. That one I love for so many reasons. A, when I was a kid, we lived across the field from a rink, and mid-afternoon and my dad would be watching sports and, you know, send us a couple bucks to go get a rink burger. Like if you grew up in Saskatchewan, you know. But I wonder if you could walk us through a little bit. Like, I think we all have these little things that everyone knows about, but I might not have thought to do a piece on rink burgers. And I wonder if you could talk us through the beginning, because this was the winner, but you actually had a list. You profiled a ton of different rinks and their burgers without necessarily even having to go there. You engaged a bunch of people, you listened really well. And yeah, so I just wonder if you could walk us through how you come up with these, like, these are things we all know as Saskatchewan, and pick that, and then how you engage so many people and listened so well to figure out where to go.
Absolutely. No, I for lots of these ideas, I have two notebooks that are just literally filled with either messages, comments. I have a bookshelf with Saskatchewan things that I always find inspiration from and other people online. So the inspiration for a lot of the ideas comes from a bunch of different sources. As a small town Saskatchewan person, rink burgers are near and dear to my heart. I was familiar with the Glentworth burger from playing senior hockey down in that neck of the woods. So it wasn't the first time I had it. I knew what I was in for, but it had been a few years. We'll probably loop back to this later on with some of the questions. But one of the things that I like to try and think about is with content is what emotions, whether it's pride, nostalgia, identity, belonging, like a lot of those things, especially for us Saskatchewanians, are tied really closely to certain things, hockey rinks and curling rinks being one of them. So any chance,
that feeling of home and security and nostalgia. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when I'm looking for a piece that I really want the audience to engage with, I go to one of those, I often lean on one of those avenues where it's like, what's something across the board, a good portion of the province will really get a conversation going and really try and get an engagement piece. So that initial piece I posted, it was just like, I'm pretty sure it was just a profile picture that I changed and I needed a caption. So I said, what's your favorite rink burger? And I was curious. I knew it would do well, but I didn't know it would do as well. I don't know if there was hundreds of comments for sure. And with help of my team at Tourism Sask, we went through the comments and we counted every comment and every like on the comment and we tallied it up. And my colleague ended up making a full graph and a map with pins all over the map, which was super, super cool to see all the different places where these rink burgers were. And Glentworth happened to be the winner by quite a few, actually. But Kelsey, I'm actually, there's a few down south. Cornack was definitely on the list.
Contender.
Rockland, Willabunch, a lot of southern towns were on the list. There was Carrot River was near the top, so it was super cool to see. And another example that came from that video is that content. It made an initial piece where it was lots of engagement in the comments, and then I made a video about it, which got a ton of shares, but then it ended up stirring a whole kind of provincial battle. And
Oh, really?
this winter, I had a message from a friend that grew up in my neck of the woods from Limerick, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
And Limerick made the top 10 on this list. And this friend said that they have created a new burger this past year that they called I can't remember exactly. It was like it was like Crushed Glentworth burger, they named it. And they said, we don't take lightly to losing to our neighbors in the south. So we've done it all. We got handmade buns, we have all the toppings, we have local raised beef. So it kind of got the wheels spinning. And from that aspect, it kind of, the Corner Gas episode, what's the town next to Corner Gas they all spit when they
Witherington?
yeah, so it kind of evoked that sort of that's also like a Saskatchewan kind of identity pride thing, being competitive with your neighbors that sparked that. And then just this past winter, to get that video recirculating, I made more of like an infographic, if anyone's familiar with Canva. And I just took, because I couldn't profile all the rinks, I just put the top 10 in a quick infographic and made a post just to say, like, here for anyone who wants to try. And that basically started the whole thing over this winter.
All over again.
It was a good example of kind of repurposing things and starting the conversation. And I know I often feel like if I post something today, I can't post it in a few months because people have already seen it. But I'm getting better at realizing that if you have 10,000 followers or 1,000 or 100,000, chances are there's only a small portion of your followers that actually saw that content, because people are living their busy lives, and it's a good way to stay active and consistent on social media, repurposing certain stories, especially when they do well.
Yeah, and keeping a conversation going, right? It's like, I think that's what makes good storytelling is it all starts with good conversation. So
absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, and that that like we're in it together and we're collaborating, but we're also competing sort of spirit.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day about hockey, and they're like, yeah, of course we're cheering for Moose Jaw now, but we can't tell anyone because that's, half the fun is that we have to fight with you guys about our hockey team. And
absolutely.
Which actually leads me to my third example, which I'm not going to show a video of because there's quite a few clips, but I wanted to talk a bit about the Southwest Sask road trip. And the reason I chose this, I think you had 3 pieces, maybe 4. There's 3 or 4 one-minute pieces, and you profiled 8 locations and 14 unique experiences. And so I'm trying to, to talk about like the storytelling aspect of that is, it's not about you necessarily picking one thing. You're telling a whole story. You're giving people a road trip for a day. You're, profiling a whole bunch more when we're talking about business development, community connection, a whole bunch of content as opposed to just one person. So you're lifting again a whole bunch of different businesses and communities. So I just wonder if you'd take us a little bit through your thought process on how you planned the trip. And
absolutely. No, and one of the things that I struggle with the most in this role is there are so many things and so little time. So it's a matter of, I like going to those businesses where I can set up my camera and interview the business owner and really get their story in. Even 60 to 90 seconds isn't a very long story, but it's not always the case. And since we've changed the Saskatchewanderer program, as you all may know or may not know, it used to change people every single year. And 2 years ago, the government decided to change it to a permanent position. And one of the reasons was there's a lot of turnover, and it was taking a lot of resources to find and train people to take over the role. But it also was trying to educate people on all these different areas of the province. And I've been working in the tourism industry in Saskatchewan for 7 years now. So as I alluded to earlier, my notebook is full of all these ideas and trying to find different ways to create content to highlight as many of these places as possible. So this was a super fun road trip. I had all these different places on my list. And to be completely honest with you, I do not think a single business on that list knew that I was coming. I showed up on their front door and said, "Do you mind if I film in here for 30 minutes?" And then I was on my way. So it was logistically, it took a lot more back end planning and a lot more editing. So I don't do these style of videos as often as I can.
Yeah.
Because it's a ton of back end for a single or 2 or 3 pieces of content. But when I do have capacity, it's really cool to cluster everything and just send people to a region. Because once they're down in that southwest or southeast or north or whatever it is, there is so much happening in all these little communities.
Yeah. And I think that, especially for some of the communities that are listening that are close to others, considering how do we collaborate on some of this and tell the bigger story and get people in all our region. I mean, I know they're thinking about that and talking about it already, but I think it's just, if you go and watch the examples, it's such a great, and there's a couple good meals in there too, but it's such a great way to see, to get people to your region.
And that's one of the things that is we try and think about. A lot of the pieces that we're doing is we're trying to highlight different places, but it's if someone was traveling through, if that singular experience isn't necessarily worth a big long drive to do, what else is in that area that we can kind of pair it up? Or maybe that restaurant isn't as Saskatchewan famous as Rawhides in Steenan that people would drive 6 hours for, or Harvest Eatery in Shaunavon. But if you pair it up with a museum or a Big Muddy Badlands tour or the Ogama train, all of a sudden you have either a day or a weekend full of really awesome activities.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I've got a small town bar tour mapped out for all that, like bar license number 1. One day I'm going to do that tour. I don't even drink, but it's still like they're iconic, spaces, but the region is fun.
Can I join you?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this second screen off and we're going to chat for a bit. Like, I think everyone's sort of wondering, like, how do you find, so I guess partially, how are you listening? And we'll tell you how Memory Keeper maybe can help with that too. But how are you finding the hidden gems first off?
Yeah, no, there's a combination of ways. A lot of it honestly comes through conversations with the audience on social media, whether that's direct messages, whether that's comments on posts, whether that's conversations at events. Like if I meet someone and they come up to me when I'm in wherever, if I'm in North Battleford and someone comes up and says, "Are you the Saskatchewanderer?" And I say, "Yes, how's your day going?" "Oh, you're from the area? Do you have any recommendations? What's nearby? What's your favorite experience?" I take a lot away from those one-on-one conversations, whether it's, I travel alone a lot. So if I'm in a small town, I'm usually sitting at a table or elbow up
at the bar so you can
having a seat at the bar and just getting to know the people in that area. And learning, because there's so much in Saskatchewan specifically that isn't on social media. That's the coolest thing about it. Like some of the coolest places, like I just did a piece 3 weeks ago, maybe, on a place in Odessa called the Grotto. And they're well known, but at the same time, they don't have an Instagram account. So there was no one to tag. There wasn't, and so many of our hidden gem restaurants, cafes, maybe don't necessarily have enough content on hand to populate, or time to populate a social media account. So that's one of the big ways. And then the other thing, I work with Tourism Saskatchewan, so I work closely with the marketing team there. So a lot of what I do we make sure that we're not overlapping. There's two other videographers that work for Tourism Saskatchewan social media channels. So they're out and about traveling. So we're kind of trying to curate our own schedules in that way. And then Tourism Saskatchewan also has different contracts for other creators or influencers or whatever to be traveling around. I work with Sask Parks as well. So the parks are a little bit interesting because I have my different ways that I want to do things, and parks often has a pretty strict marketing plan where they say this summer we want to market these 3 parks because we marketed these 2 last summer or something. So there's a lot of different avenues, and I don't know if any of you here have ever worked with our industry development team. They're an awesome group to work with, but they work with different industry members on creating memorable experiences and getting people. They have an awe shop where it's basically training these businesses on how to create awe moments with guests and what to do to stand out and be unique. So I often have meetings with them almost every season to just say, hey, where are you at? What's coming out this summer that's exciting? Is there any new accommodations or activities that I should be aware of? Whether that's this past summer, there was barbecue donut boats in Clear Lake that a company released. So you go out on the water. Over the winter, there was new glamping accommodations that opened up in Blackstrap Provincial Park. So a lot of these things have been funneled down through our industry development team and have been invested in by Tourism Saskatchewan. So when they come to market, the powers that be that I work under say, hey, it would be really nice to give this
Here's a good story.
This startup company a little bit of a boost to make sure they get off the ground and flying here. So yeah, all sorts of different avenues.
Yeah. So what I heard, I heard a lot of things there, but one is the listening. And really, whether it's through social, we've got some folks who have run contests, and for any of you who haven't, if you wanted to, like using Memory Keeper to say, capture the community. What's the hidden gem what are the hidden gems in our town we should be bragging about? You could get a ton of great content, deputize all the people in your town to help create the content and actually hear where the stars are, because your community probably knows. 2 is collaboration, like you talked about, tourism, parks, other communities, is finding the other people in the conversation. And then the 3rd, I think you didn't say, but you kind of said without saying, like you're talking about donut boats, and I think about like some of the unique stories you've done. It's like, have a little bit of fun with it and try and either find or create some of the crazy stories, because they're the ones that seem to get amplified. So
Absolutely. I was in a conversation similar to this. This was years ago. I think this was 2017, and it was the Southwest Cypress Hills destination area. I don't know if they were called that at the time, but they were all sitting around and they're like, what could we do to get to like have people get their attention? And they have that visitors center. If anyone has been on the #1 highway heading to Alberta, you'll go past Maple Creek's visitor center. And they were sitting around, they're like, what if we made the most outrageous bathrooms on the highway, on the Trans-Canada Highway? People are using, what if our washroom was an experience? And they ended up getting all this fancy wallpaper. They play music in there. So if you've ever had to use a washroom,
great washroom stuff.
Canada Highway, yeah, they've done a really amazing job. And the amount of visitors that they get to that location, strictly because there's really no trees to hide behind, nowhere else to use the washroom on that like 3-hour stretch of highway. But they've done a really cool job just kind of looking around and saying, okay, what is no one else doing? How could we stand out or be unique in a way? Just those little things are pretty special.
I took a design class once upon a time, many years ago. And when it worked us through this example, and it was basically like it showed this example of trying to work around this boulder in this room. Like it was a beam and it had to be there and whatever. And then at the end, basically there was one design where that was the focal point, and they did a really cool thing with it. And it's like, this is really how we have to work for anything. Is like that's right there, and maybe you're not looking at it the right way, but I mean, bathrooms, that's pretty creative. Pretty creative. So I guess that kind of answers the how do you choose where to focus too. Like I understand you're trying to spread it around. For the folks on the call, probably some of it's spreading it around to industry as well as, yeah, businesses and parks and all the things in their communities. Um, what kind of things do you recommend on how the folks on the call can do it themselves? Like what kind of things should they be thinking of? What makes a good story? Yeah.
Yes. No, how you can do it yourself, I guess, would be, can I ask a question back to that? Is in terms of capacity and time, as far as who's on the team, are we, say, 2 hours a week dedicated to the social media side of things, or are we 20, or are we full time? Is it kind of a mix of all of the above?
Do you guys want to put it in the chat? Like, I think we have a mix of a little bit of everything, but if you can put about how many hours you spend on storytelling,
Yeah.
or, you know, audience engagement, let's say.
Because I
Because yeah,
would say,
I think we have a mix of everything. We have a lot of people, honestly, that they have their job is economic development, tourism. They administer some of the rec programs. They like it is
right,
so, I mean,
yeah.
which in some ways they're in the middle of the stories they want to tell because they're doing it all. But
No, that's fair. And I guess that's where I would start for people that don't have a ton of capacity for actually getting out there with their cameras and stuff is implementing some form of user generated content workflow. I think that's even with the amount of people we have on our tourism Sask marketing team. Like I don't use user generated content for the Saskatchewanderer account because it's just not set up that way. But the Tourism Sask account relies very heavily, and there's full-time workers managing that account and videographers coming in. So judging by these comments, yeah, basically a day or less a week to dedicate to creating content. User generated stuff is going to be your best friend on that side of things, which if you're unfamiliar, that's resharing photos, basically getting your audience to do the work for you, or getting your community or your area to do a lot of that work for you. An example that people do at, whether it's small scale businesses, I'm sure you've maybe seen lots of businesses you go to. I was just in a coffee shop the other day, and they had this big floral wall with a neon sign behind it that said where they were, and then they had a little sign, hashtag be sure to tag and follow us in these posts. And that page, their whole social media, which I think was at like 29,000 followers, was just people taking selfies by this sign and tagging. It was called the shop in Saskatoon, right on the riverbank there.
oh yeah.
A lot of really neat stuff, but a lot of organizations do that. We have and actively push the Explore Sask hashtag on Tourism Saskatchewan, so we can kind of monitor that.
And Andrew, I might throw in an example too, because we've got some communities that exactly push a hashtag, pick a really clear hashtag that's going to be yours. But we also have with Memory Keeper, you can add direct. So what we find is we get quite a bit more content when people are having access to a QR code to say either share this on social, which we can link a hashtag and capture all that for you, but also or share direct. Some people don't want to put it on their feed, but they're still completely okay to share their pictures. And so putting some stories out into your communities or deputizing a couple of volunteers with some stories to say, spread the word, you know, whether it's, yeah, getting a QR code and a hashtag out in the community or on your Facebook page, even saying add to the story and running some contests, gathering that content and then just having a pile of content to be able to use is
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially if you have 4 hours a week to get to do all this stuff, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. The contests are a prime example to get people, and that's right in saying that a lot of times I'll go to these places and necessarily maybe a selfie in front of a sign isn't something that I would post directly to my feed, but whether it's something you can throw on your story or submit or photo contests, that sort of thing. are a really cool option for people to have. And definitely the contests usually get people's
Yeah.
wheels spinning. I know I've shared a lot of stuff on my social media accounts to try and win a Yeti cooler or something of that nature in the
Yeah.
past. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we kind of monitor like some of the stories that will be in Memory Keeper. So it's a platform that, yeah, you can capture content without it having to be on social, although it can be on social too. But is if there's a prize, even, and we find it doesn't matter what the prize is. If you say for a chance to win, share your pictures. We handle the disclaimer so you can reuse it. So for a chance to win, you're going to get the most. Or if you're helping someone. So it's either to help the community's marketing to whatever, but if there's a call to action that says like you're helping someone, is very Saskatchewan of us, I think, is that those two examples are where we see people get the most content from people, and people are happy to let people use it. So
absolutely. And the other thing there are a lot of, I'm sure most of us or a lot of us do spend some time in the evening scrolling through our own social media feeds and follow people that are in the province that are doing similar things to the Saskatchewanderer or in your local areas. What I've found is a small gesture goes a long way. Whether that's just as simple as reaching out and saying, "Hey, I'm a big fan of your work. If you're ever interested in coming on the Big Muddy tour, we'd love to host you," or whether it's anything like that, can just sending out the message, like just shooting your shot, as you will, whether it's a big influencer or whether it's somebody that has a small following, or whether it's somebody in your local high school that you see is active on social media, reaching out to those people and just letting them know, or whether you're just sharing their content, building those relationships. And in that, even if it's the 4 hours a week and you just happen to be sneaking an extra hour on your lunch break for your personal social media, instead of being on your own account, maybe go on Town of Assiniboia and like and comment on a few. Oh, great shot, beautiful. Engaging with the audience is really helpful in kind of building that community and
I think
getting
it also helps with your, the magic algorithm lift, is that if you're if you're having some conversations there.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So and I'm thinking of like back to the craziness. I was thinking I went to Alberta. This is not a Saskatchewan story, but for my daughter's volleyball a couple of years ago, and we had to stop. We had to go like 30 minutes off the way because the Cheetos thumb was there, the giant statue of the Cheetos thumb. All the girls wanted a picture with the giant statue of the Cheetos thumb in Cheeto, I think it was, Alberta. But I just think back to like have some fun. And maybe
Yeah.
even it's like you said, engaging that high school student that's really engaging and has some good, like is active on social, to have a fun contest with you, or do like what crazy thing would they do, and really, explore a little bit outside the norm. And I
Absolutely.
say that
Leroy
as
and
I'm
Leroy.
coming to what makes a good story. And then also I wonder, yeah, what makes a good story? And if you could give us an example, when we talked before this call and you said, if you were you're showing up at a restaurant, for example, like what kind of, like, I'd get this shot and this shot and like some kind of tactical pieces.
Absolutely. No, I wrote down just like a few little things, and I mentioned them before. I always try and think how I want my audience to feel with a piece, and that could be complex. It could be a heartfelt piece that is a cultural piece that has a little bit of emotion in that way tied to it, or that could be, I want my audience to laugh. That could be a windstorm. That could be like a community thing, like, oh, it's a windy place. My most viewed video of all time, I'm pouring coffee in the wind. It's absolutely ridiculous. But that video brought in, over the course of like 2 weeks, 5,000 new followers to the social media platform. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a powerful emotional thing, but that community pride, humor, nostalgia, those things are something that I always think about. Another thing is, your content should have value. Your story should have value to the audience. And one of the things that's not a hard and fast rule, but I always try and think, is this a piece to entertain my audience? Is this a piece to educate the audience? Or is it just a piece to inspire them? If it's a beautiful picture of nature or a sunset, it maybe has no further purpose than just an awe moment or just a beautiful little break on someone's social media feed. Or if it's okay, we need to communicate a clear message about our business or about our town. We need to entertain, so we need to write an informative caption, and we need to make sure that these messages are hit, or just entertainment, just sheer fun times. And if you can do all three in one post, that is not a good story. That is a great story. So good on you for that one. But when I'm the other thing I would say is, for social media, it has to grab attention. You have to be visually appealing, and that'll kind of be my segue into just like what we talked about earlier, Jessica, about how I would say film for a simple kind of 101 video, which you've all probably seen many of videos like this about restaurants and stuff. But if I'm at a restaurant, a hook would be almost like let's say a reaction. And so if I'm taking a bite of a burger, and I don't always start my videos like this, but if I feel like it needs it, the first 3 seconds are my favorite shot of the video. So if I'm biting into a burger and my reaction is, oh, this is the best thing ever, and that's at the front, and then kind of go through the storyline and, okay, give the viewer the experience. We're outside. You just get a quick visual on your iPhone. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, of the exterior. And then you're going inside. You have a video of the interior. Maybe you have a couple extra seconds to just show some details, really short little clips, just to give, if there's one of those old, I don't know, most of our small town, Kelsey Deb's Country Kitchen has that clock where the advertisements flip down, like any kind of unique thing in your restaurant or in your place that just has something that's different or unique or speaks to the location. A few shots of that, the food or the product or whatever that is, and then a human or a reaction eating it. And if you're not comfortable being on camera, it can be as simple as just showing the food, and that's it. Like, that's really simple. Like, these quick TikTok reel, Instagram reels are really, really honestly easy to shoot a lot of time. For me, I always add a voiceover to things, so that helps. But you can add captions if you need to give more details and something like that. But those quick cell phone videos that you see all over the place on TikTok, get your exterior shot, get an interior shot, and then what it's called is B-roll, which is like, if you were on the news, A-roll would be the interview of the person talking. B-roll is the footage that goes over top of it. So if you're doing a video where you're just a voiceover, everything is just kind of, your visuals are all just footage of the area, the little details and the memorable thing and what makes it special. And technically, if you're doing food, I say this every time, if you're taking a video of food, don't do it at night. Even if the restaurant that you need to promote is only open at 5 p.m., tell them to make you a plate at 2 p.m. or whatever when the sun's up, and put your plate by the window. Don't take a video or a photo of your food under a heat lamp. Don't take it in a dark corner. Don't take it under a regular lamp. Put it by the window and get natural light on it, because that's going to make it's so many restaurants don't like doing that simple thing would make their page kind of go from be much more eye-catching. Sorry, I just see a comment here. Equipment. So I just got an equipment question. I use an iPhone for so much of my stuff. If you have a new-ish iPhone and you're taking a photo of a person or even food, portrait mode is awesome. Like, people half the time don't know that it's on portrait mode on my iPhone versus my fancy DSLR. I use the newer iPhones have a mode called cinematic mode, which is helpful. If you don't have that, that's okay. The newer iPhones also have a mode at the top called action mode, which if you're walking with your camera, it just stabilizes the footage really well. So if you're speeding it up or if you're moving, it's not bumpy and it's smooth. And I'll give you an example. If I am taking a video of food, my arms are tucked, I'm holding the camera as sturdy as I can, and I'm just leaning like this. I'm trying to keep that. If it's only a 1 second clip, I'm literally like this. There's no shaky. If you're out here and you're going like this and your footage for a second is moving around, it's just hard to watch. So when you're doing those quick video clips of the restaurant or of the flipping clock or of those fine details, just do a simple motion, either push, pull, push, pan side to side, and just keep it steady. Make sure your thumb's not in the shot if you're using a wide camera. I do that all the time.
And someone asked what mic you use as well. Yeah, that's what they said, iPhone mic. Yeah,
When
good.
one trick that I would recommend if you're doing a voiceover, if you're doing a lot of the videos, I put a blanket over my head. I go sit on my bed and I put a duvet over my head. I use my iPhone mic for 90% of my voiceovers. I just stand like this and say, "Welcome to Radville. We're here today checking out," and it acts as a natural sound room when you have that mic. If like my audio in here is awful, like it's just
There's
photos
echoey. Yeah.
and hardwood.
Yeah.
Don't record. If you can't, don't record in a room like that. Even if you're in a room that has carpet and a couch, your audio will sound 100 times better than in a kitchen with hardwood or with anything like that. But as simple as throwing a blanket over yourself to record, it'll sound like you're
In a
using
sound booth.
a professional mic, yeah, or a sound booth.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, if you're screwing up your voiceover a lot, like I often do, it gets a little bit sweaty under a duvet. You're trying to say the same 30-second script without doing it over.
Eventually I'm like, okay, I'm just having a nap. Well,
Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah,
one thing, if you do have budget, I do often I shoot lots of cell phone stuff, but I do use like a full-size DSLR for like the Melfort and the burger video and stuff. That was all shot with a tripod and a camera and a proper microphone. I could maybe throw the mic that if you have $300, there's a mic that DJI makes that you can plug right into the bottom of your phone. I don't have it yet, but if you'll see a lot of people on like social media that have like a little black mic clipped, those mics are super, super handy. GoPro, I see a question about a GoPro. I have 2 different GoPros. So I have a regular GoPro, like kind of action cam that you would see. I don't actually use that much if I'm doing a canoe trip or if I'm doing any sort of like adventure based video that I need to clip it on or leave it outside for a time lapse. They're super handy. But I actually use the GoPro 360 camera quite often. Which basically, if you're unfamiliar, it goes on a selfie stick, and when you're filming, it edits out the pole. So it kind of looks like it looks like there's a drone, and in instances that you can't actually fly a drone, say you're at a big community event, and there's too many people around to be flying a drone, you can order online like a 15-foot selfie stick, which I use in the city all the time. The only downfall to those specific cameras is you actually have to edit because it films everything. You have to like post-production edit where you want the camera to specifically face. So a simple minute-long video is a little bit time-consuming to pick. The app is pretty intuitive, but the 360 cameras do take a little bit of extra work on the back end to edit that out. But truthfully, I would say for most content now, you can get away very, very easily with using an iPhone 14, even an iPhone 13. I think our iPhone 15's out, even better.
No.
Yeah, but even with that, you can shoot stuff that's yeah, like slow motion, everything on there.
Awesome. That's some great tips. Now I've taken notes. I'm like, I want to go create some content. Okay, so I'm just going to fly through a couple more things and then we'll see if we have a couple more questions at the end. I just wanted to give an example of one fun thing Memory Keeper did. We've created these. This was a long time ago. Like when we first started, we created this just to have a little fun, but we have these stickers. If anyone's going on any cool trips and wants me to send them a pack, email us, but we have these adventure travel stickers. And so anytime someone's going on a trip somewhere else, we send them, and we've got stickers in places we didn't even know. Like we've got Botswana up here. So we have the story. It's just for the people who find the stickers. But we've got a couple hundred pieces of content. They've all, click the disclaimer. We can use this content now. I think that's Bow Island, Alberta, and then Laos, Botswana. Like we've got people that have just scanned and added from around the world and started following us. So it's just a fun little example of like, have some fun, maybe have a little hide things and it'd be a special club that people are joining. And then I also just want to tell you quickly a little bit more about Memory Keeper and what we heard from Andrew and how Memory Keeper can help. If you're part of the pilot, we'll keep unfolding this as you're in the pilot. And if you're not yet, feel free to reach out to us and we can tell you more, but we can help with the listening. So throw it out to your community. What are our hidden gems? Create a Memory Keeper story and ask your community to share. You can put QR codes on buildings or on signage in the community, as well as sharing it on Facebook or Instagram. You can engage your community that way, but we also help tell a bigger story. So I think we're working with a digital art displaying that's going to be in Calgary, and they're going to have a Memory Keeper QR code on the side of the art display. And if you want the whole story, so not a 30-second clip, but the whole story, you scan that and you're going to get to know the artist, their background, the inspiration behind the piece, and all the stages of them creating the piece. So I think for any of the towns that have murals or, kids that have done art displays in the town, this is a great way to actually showcase the whole story as well, if someone wants more. I think I've shared with some of you before, but we have some communities that are putting QR codes up on, I think, on heritage buildings, but also saying, what's your story with this, whether it's that restaurant in Coronach or the clock, or being able to really engage an audience in a two-way conversation. And deputize your volunteers. I think it was Carrot River we were talking to. He said, you could create the story, add your volunteer lead from your community, and they can actually run with it. And so really nice way to deputize locals to dig in to get some stories and some content for you. And then of course, we keep it all safe. So we have a digital content library that keeps it safe, powered by AI. So really easy to use and find. And we play nice with all these people. So although we know that, a lot of what you're going to do is on social, you're going to be designing it. So we're integrated with Canva. Yeah, lots of great things you can do using Memory Keeper and social media to really drive story, to get people to your community and get them, engaging in the community, spending, interacting, and connecting. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes to do that. I'm going to skip this, but I am going to tell you a little bit about the pilot speakers, because obviously we've had Andrew, but we've got some great speakers that are continuing to come throughout the next 6 months in this pilot. Seth Godin's actually offered an hour and a half that he's going to let us watch videos beforehand and just workshop marketing stories with us. He's a storytelling legend. We've got Annie, who I think is on the call right now, but she's going to take us through in early June how to incorporate Indigenous storytelling into your community and really demystifying, like, how do we do this the right way and the most meaningful way with the right partners? And so lots of good stuff coming up that I just wanted to highlight. If you're not in the pilot and you're interested in joining the pilot still, you can scan that QR code or email us and we'll tell you more. And now I think in the last couple minutes, I'll leave this up on the screen for a couple seconds if anyone wants to scan and learn more, but I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. If anyone has questions. We got some good ones for you already, Andrew, but. Kelsey, I said that you get one for free because, you know, hometown and all.
Yeah, it just goes back to talking about the murals and stuff like Andrew also obviously know about all the murals we've done over the past few years and just using Memory Keeper to tell those stories. And I mean, we already have the content. I mean, you came and did those videos with SAS Tourism, you know, you interviewed Stephanie about the one mural. It's like, how do we reuse that and continue to tell the story? And all our murals really do interconnect and tell the whole story of our community. Is how do we do that? And we've talked about it for a long time, but now with Memory Keeper, I think that actually gives us the platform to actually do it and has a place to live, and it doesn't seem too overwhelming for me to do and to get started. And then yeah, connecting people's stories to the murals as well, because for example, the Herald and the Cole mural, like a lot of people in the community have their own stories and stuff about that as well. So
Oh, I
yeah,
love it.
but now I'm just like, I just need to like go do stuff.
That's good though. You're inspired and you have the tools to do it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be great.
And
Andrew,
you're
you're going to go and visit that once they have all those stories collected and
absolutely. Is that the plan? Like, would you have like a QR code or something so that people can add their stories and then have a base for them? Because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like our idea is all the murals that have their own QR code, you know, telling stories. Like I said, we have the video with Stephanie Harold. We have the whole Cole and Cornack documentary. Like we could take recordings from that and have that all available. Like I said, there's content out there. Like we need to be reusing it. And you know, people come for a tour and they come half an hour early. Well, go in and check the murals and scan the codes, and then they already have some history before they go on a tour and stuff like that. So like I said, the murals all tells the whole history of the community. You have the horse mural from the beginning of time, you know, how the community started. You got the egg murals now on the museum, which is Cornack was an egg community until the 1980s when the power plant and the coal mine came. Then you got Harold and the coal mural that tells that whole story. And then you have Stephanie's mural, which is a modern contemporary. She talks a lot about the transition of the community stuff. So then like they all intertwine, they all tell a story together, but it's about making that connection. And I love the idea of being able to put in their own stories with it that we don't know or whatnot.
And Kelsey, I can't remember if I gave you this example, but using Memory Keeper Regina Eco Museum, they're a museum without walls. So they have exhibits in the community. So I think similar to yours, but what they did was they've got the story of the exhibit when you scan the QR code into Memory Keeper, but they also sought stories from senior citizens about the first general store because that was their first exhibit. And so they have all these stories of senior citizens that have told the story back. So I could see very similar. Yeah. We're going to do a great job this summer getting these stories out there. We were talking in Ogama as well. They have some videos of like some of the, I want to say famous seniors throughout the years, and they did video pieces on them and they haven't really had a place to anchor them in the community. So they're going to use Memory Keeper. But seeking the stories back from other people about these people and their contribution will be, I think, just as powerful. Like it shifts the conversation. So yes. Yay.
Absolutely.
Okay, well that looks like a wrap. I'll stay on for a couple of minutes if anyone has any more questions. Andrew, thank you so much. We know you're about to go through 3 months of not getting to sleep in your own bed and not having any time. And so the fact that you made time for us today and we're so grateful for, and I think and I hope will do you proud over the years, just amplifying some of the stories of these communities and the people who make them great.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. And I'm happy to stick around if anyone was too shy in front of the group and has any questions. I'm in no rush right now to run off. So if anyone does have any questions, I can hang on for a little bit here as well too. But I'm just trying to memorize names here, and hopefully I can see a few of you this summer and come chat and hang out in person and show off your neck of the woods, because just seeing some of the names on here, I'm like, okay, I gotta go visit that place. I haven't made it to Carrot River yet. I'm like, okay, I haven't been back. Big Muddy tours would be nice. There's the list adds up super quick. But yeah, anyhow, I'll stick around and if needed and have some more conversations. I'm happy to, but thank you all.
Okay, and I'll turn the recording off as well. So if anyone wants to jump on and didn't want to do the recording, it's off now.